Hey guys, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. And today we're talking about Barbie, and we're gonna free flow this thing and talk about all different topics about Barbie. I don't think any of us have seen Oppenheimer, however you pronounce.
I have
Oppenheimer.
not.
I'm
I
seeing
want
it on
to.
Thursday, so I just missed the cut. We're recording this on Tuesday,
I
but
wanna
because
see
of
it really
Sandy,
bad.
Ooh.
yeah, I heard it was really good. But because of San Diego, we didn't get to see it. And we at least got to see Barbie, and I'm excited to talk about it. So let's talk about, I guess, expectations going in, how you guys felt the Barbie fever, and yeah, were you guys excited? Amy, what were your Barbie thoughts? Unless it was just like I had to do this for this podcast.
No, no, it wasn't. I actually was excited to see this film for multiple reasons. The first is Greta Gerwig. I think she's an astounding director, and the
You because a Little Woman, right? I'm guessing that's the one
yes.
you saw. Okay.
Yeah, and the advanced reviews were coming off pretty positive. Like, hey, you know what? This doesn't feel silly. It has a good center to it. That there are some serious topics in a ridiculous world. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like the kind of jam I like. Um, we'll talk more about kind of what I thought about the movie itself, but expectation wise, I kind of wish that I didn't, but I kind of wish I'd had the time to like arrange something with my friends and have us all dress up in pink and show up to the movie together. People were doing that at Comic-Con. There were so many people dressed
Really?
up in pink, and they were very clearly going to see it like at Horton or at Fashion Valley. Like people were going to take the trolley over to Fashion Valley and come back. And it was really cute. We had so many people come into our like offsite lounge in pink, grab a coffee, and then head off to see the Barbie movie.
That's so
Um,
fun.
so I'm I didn't have many expectations other than the fact that I did expect it to be good. So, we'll talk about my thoughts about that later on.
um, I did have plans to see it with my friends. They were very nice and actually waited to see it, but they went to see Oppenheimer, so they only waited for half the phenomena. They watched Oppenheimer
They still
while I
did the
was
full
gone.
Barbieheimer.
They did, and they
I've
did
heard
it the day
the
after
correct
day.
order. Yeah, I feel like that's the correct order. Everyone says Oppenheimer first, then Barbie.
I wish I did that. Yeah, I wish I had. But I'm also happy I got to see Barbie
Oh,
first because
that's
that's the
true.
one I was excited for. But no, so we bought the tickets really early to go see it on Monday. I did kind of wear pink. I wore my black shirt with the Barbie logo about the dying quote. I had a
It's
shirt about
that
that.
shirt is so good.
I love that shirt. So I wore that. And honestly, it was so interesting because I go to the movies a lot, as you guys know. I go like at least once a week. Got the AMC stubs. And if you guys, this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, I have the AMC stubs. I watch a lot of movies. So, there's never like a huge event. Even the Marvel movies, you go in, it's just like, cool, it's another Marvel movie. But with Barbie, it felt like an event. I saw like a cosplayer, which never thought I would see that in a
No.
movie. For Barbie, everyone was wearing pink. I was even wearing
Everyone
pink.
was
All
wearing
my
pink.
friends were wearing pink, and just walking out of the theater and then also going in, and also supposedly people in Oppenheimer was also wearing pink because I'm guessing you're going to see Barbie right after. So I love that. I feel like we haven't had that feeling in a movie in a really long time,
Mhm.
just to have like this kind of shared experience and excitement to go see a movie, because I think it was really taken away from how many Marvel stuff we get, how much Star Wars stuff we
Mhm.
get. And I think there's a bigger question about Barbie. Is it a franchise, and should it be a franchise? Because it almost feels like a franchise movie because there's a big name like Barbie, but really people are excited more from the filmmaking perspective because Greta Gerwig is, she's a great director, and she made a lot of indie films like Lady Bird, Frances Ha. Like, she's a filmmaker with a capital F, and so it's interesting to see her do something that's a franchise movie. But then there's the question of, will this be a franchise movie? Because honestly, and spoilers in this chat, but it honestly ends in a way where you're like, I don't know if it really will be. I think it was more of a commentary about Barbie, capitalism, and gender, which we'll get into as it goes along. But I don't remember why I started this point, but yeah, those are my
Yeah,
Community,
thoughts.
everybody coming together, Barbie
Community. Yeah,
pink.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Community.
Yes.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
On any day that you go see Barbie, you wear pink. I was Abby in the chat says the whole theater I was at, my showing sold out and was almost entirely a sea of pink. Uh,
I love that.
and Rachel said I did wear pink as well. And there were a lot of other people wearing pink when I went to see it. Um, Yeah, I it was kind of wild to me because I was busy all weekend, so I didn't get a chance to go see it during the weekend during like the prime time. But I was like, okay, I'll go see it on Monday, and I'm sure it'll be calmer on Monday anyway because I knew it was like selling out. Like early in the morning on Monday, I'm like on the Fandango app trying to get like looking at the seats in my local theater, and it was packed. Like we were gonna have to see Barbie in the first row. We were have to like basically be in the Barbie movie, and I was like, maybe that's too much Barbie. So we ended up going
Too
to
much
like
pink.
a theater that's like a little further away to go see it so that we could have like better seats. And even still, we didn't have like the seats that we would definitely want. Like we were all the way in the back. I was like, this is what I can't think of like the last time to Kat, your point, like even the big Marvel movies, my local theater, I've always been able to like go in, basically get whatever seat I want, sometimes even on opening weekend. This is the
That's
first time
crazy.
on like a Monday. I was like, this thing is sold out still? How is this
Monday was
happening?
I also went on a Monday and I was shocked how crowded it was. I thought that would be the day where it's like, oh, everyone saw it this weekend. No. And I saw it at like 8 o'clock. So it was like one of the later
Yeah,
showings. I
same
was
for
pretty
me.
surprised by that.
Yeah, at 8 o'clock on a Monday, and it was packed. And the funny thing is that all these I've seen so many people taking pictures in like the little Barbie case, like the little Mattel Barbie case. But apparently the theater I went to like just didn't have Mattel Barbie case budget.
Aw.
And so they made like a little they made an attempt though. They were like, okay, we're gonna put up pink streamers and balloons. And then they made like a little pink Barbie box that you could tell was like kind of handmade, but it was like child size. So like when we went into the theater, I was like, "Mike, get my picture in the wait, what? What's happening there?" And then I saw like a girl like have to like pretzel herself to get into and out of the box, and I went, "Nope, I'm not doing that." And then I saw like a little girl like run up and go, "Oh, Barbie," and then like get into it perfectly, and I was like, "Oh, so that's a child size box. I guess I'm gonna have to just take a picture next to the poster."
Which is interesting because I think there's a question of like who was this movie targeted to? And I feel like this is the first time I could say it was kind of targeted to everybody. There's targeted to and that's the whole point of this movie is just like
Yeah.
anyone's Barbie and like anyone's Ken. And now this is the first movie I felt like, yeah, this didn't really because I thought going into Barbie, it's like, yeah, it's gonna be more for women, but it really wasn't. It really there's a commentary for men too. So it's truly a movie for any age and any race, anything, like any age. It really interesting because how many franchises can do that. You have the Marvel movies that kind of hit a certain demographic. Again, you have like Disney movies that hit a certain demographic, but this is like, oh, there is no demographic.
Yeah, I know, I was surprised. I mean, there were definitely some jokes, I think, if you brought, like, a smaller kid, they would just fly over their
Yeah.
heads. But yeah, I think in that way, it was kinda great because, yeah, I think you could take a younger kid to the movie and, like, the jokes would just go over, and they wouldn't realize that anything, like, that they had missed anything. But yeah, it did feel like it was kind of for everybody. And I think that's kind of the point of Barbie is that like so many generations of little girls have played with Barbie that Barbie kind of belongs to such a vast variety of people. Like we all have like the memories of the Barbies when we were growing up, like the neon Barbies. I was like, I definitely had those roller skates.
I think there's something too about when you're trying to attract an audience on different levels because realistically you could hear people say, "Oh, this movie was for everybody," but did everybody go and actually see it? When you cast
Yes.
Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling and Will Ferrell, it kind of makes the layperson be like, "Oh, this movie might actually like it sounds like it's going to be really good." And that encourages people to want to go see it up front. So I think that casting helped solidify this as not just a weird spoof movie. Like this was a movie that is going to become. I was talking with one of my friends. I'm like, is this going to become like the new Pitch Perfect Girls' Night movie? Like, is this what we're going to be watching at girls' nights when we're like, I don't know, do we actually go and do each other's hair and nails? When we are drinking beer, when we're really tired after a long
When we're
work
having our
week,
wine,
we're having our
tipping
wine
our
and
wine.
playing, I don't know, Settlers of Catan. We're gonna be watching Barbie at the same
I
time.
could see this becoming for sure like a sleepover movie for like
Mhm.
teens and tweens because I know like when I was little, the sleepover movie was like Now and Then.
Was
Um,
Sleepover the movie.
oh my
Mean
god.
Girls.
Love Sleepover the movie.
Mean
That's
Girls.
like 3. Okay, wait, hold on. So Morgan, what was your
Ours was
we're gonna figure out
our
each other's like
well,
sleepover
at least
movies.
mine when I was at a lot of sleepovers, we always ended up somehow putting on Now and Then.
Okay. Mine was always Mean Girls.
Mean Girls was great, yeah.
Kat, what
I,
was your sleepover movie?
Sleepover the movie. It was so bad. I love that movie. I could quote it to this day. It's so good. But yeah, no, Mean Girls too.
Mean
Like,
Girls.
Yeah, Mean Girls is a great
the
one.
drama. Any Lindsay Lohan movie, probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Lindsay Lohan had like a whole career in sleepover movies.
She really did. And some of them were good and some of them were bad. I think
Not
of
so good.
Confessions of a Drama Queen just to be this, like, when it came out, I loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is such a fun movie. And when you really look back at it, it's a really bad movie.
I at some point I feel like I want to like revisit like the sleepover movies of my youth and see if any of them hold up at all.
I'm
I
telling you,
suspect not.
you should watch Sleepover, the movie. Have you seen it?
And then at the end I'll chase them all with Sleepover the movie,
Good.
and then I'll have like achieved the perfect sleepover. I'm
Maybe this
workshopping it.
this sounds like a fun episode. We should do sleepover movies. Do they
Sleepover
hold
movies.
up? Or like
No.
millennial sleepover movies. Do
Oh,
they hold
yeah,
up? Because
yeah.
Mean Girls 100% does. I know we just
It
Oh,
watched
yeah.
does.
it
Well,
a
Mean
couple
Girls
months
is
ago.
it. Yeah, Mean Girls.
It
is
does,
great.
but it's not a movie I like to rewatch very often because I just feel like
Really?
it's so, yeah, because I know it like backwards and forwards. I'm just like,
You've
it's just
seen it so
not.
many times. It's like,
Yeah,
For me, like
I don't like rewatching things.
oh, I
so-
forgot our other sleepover movie, which was Clueless.
okay,
Oh yeah,
Every,
Clueless is
every
good.
sleepover had Clueless in it too.
But the nice thing about you having seen Mean Girls 100 times is it's meant to be like a, oh, no one's paying attention, but we're all like literally, we're doing whatever we're doing, drinking wine, eating from our charcuterie boards because we're fancy ass millennials.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
adults now, guys.
We're adults now. We drink wine and eat cheese at our sleepover nights. And then
And
you
we
can
go
just
to bed by 9.
and go to bed by
My
9.
perfect
And we can just be
sleepover.
pouring our wine and eating our olives, and suddenly everyone in the room goes, because it's full of secrets. And you all get it, and then you go back to whatever you're doing.
I think that does make a lot of sense. I see Rachel in the chat says, I highly recommend the podcast Romancing the Pod, where the hosts review romantic comedies and make jokes about them. So I guess
Nice.
yeah, they go back to the romantic comedy golden years, I guess, since they don't make that
But
many romantic comedies anymore.
They don't, honestly.
so all this is to say that Barbie might become a future sleepover movie.
I could for sure see Barbie entering the lexicon of sleepover movies.
Mhm.
I think it's on there for sure. But let's get into the good and bad of the film. I also want to go into like more of the nitty gritty of like themes of the film and what it tries to tackle because it's obviously a movie that tries to be deep. It definitely tries to have a commentary. And again, there's a lot of commentary about gender and what it means to be a woman or even what it means to be a man. And I think I was surprised by how much Ken there was and how much of a part that was of the movie. But I think that's why it was for everybody because they could have went the total just like let's just talk about women. But I think it was smart to do both. And honestly, the thing I liked the most was probably the commentary on the capitalism idea of marketing Barbie. Like, who is Barbie as an idea, and what does that mean from our marketing standpoint, from like honestly a capitalism standpoint as well. Like, there's a heavy commentary about like again what pressures we put on ideas, how that like reflects towards actual people, and you could definitely dig deeper into that. So those are things I enjoyed.
Yeah,
Overall
I liked
commentary.
that Barbie was willing the movie is really about, feels like it's made by somebody who loves Barbie, but also is completely cognizant of how like conversations around Barbie have changed over the years. I feel like there was like a huge backlash to Barbie at some point where it's like, oh, Barbie is giving us like unrealistic beauty standards and things like that. Where they mention that in the movie, they talk about it like Barbie. I mean, to a greater point, it seems like for tween girls, like at a certain age, Barbie's not cool anymore. And so when Barbie comes to the real world, and she's like, of course they're going to be so excited to see me. All girls love Barbie, and tweens don't love anything, but particularly they don't love Barbie. I did also like this sort of shout out to like the idea that those tween years are like really tough for everyone, but like
Mhm.
particularly for the poor mom who's like, what happened to my nice daughter who used
Yeah.
to like me?
I think for me, there was a point where maybe there were almost too many themes at the end. Like you're following a very clear, very good theme through their heist and their little like tricking Ken's thing, and then at the end, she's got literally 15 minutes and she adds six different options in there. I was like, oh, what's the moral of the story? Like it was a little overwhelming at the end. You had the Ken thing, you had the I want to be human thing, the emotion thing, the equality thing. It was a lot at once. And so it was just that last little bit that I wish that they had worked out the editing and picked kind of like a final shebang. And it's challenging because at the end you don't want, if you're talking about this power of feminism, you don't necessarily want, I think, Barbie to solve Ken's problems. Barbie cannot solve Ken's problems. Barbie cannot be like the one who says, oh, I'm really sorry that I'm the one who treated you badly, and make her almost like the villain, so to speak. You need Ken to kind of come to his own recognition, so you have to put that in there. But it's interesting because in my opinion, one of the biggest, strongest cases for what feminism is that feminism is equality. And I did kind of want more of that topic in there, as opposed to this sort of matriarchy that they ended when the boys were like, we want to be part of the Supreme Court, and she's like, maybe a lower court for you guys.
I
I don't
mean,
want you in the big one yet.
they did just do a coup in Barbie Land,
That's
so I guess
true.
I
That's
don't think they
true.
should be on the Supreme Court.
they're not there yet.
They're not there yet.
I thought one of the interesting things about Barbie the movie is that in the Barbie lore, Ken is essentially just an accessory. Like no one really cared. No one was like, "Yes, I got a Ken doll." Like I've never heard any little girl say that. So like Ken is just like an accessory for Barbie, and in the world of the movie, Ken really only exists to prop up Barbie or be
Hmm.
there for Barbie, or you know like I think they say early on like Ken really only exists when Barbie looks at him,
Hmm.
which honestly is how women are portrayed in most media.
Yes.
So I thought that was such an interesting way to flip it, where like
Hmm.
in Barbie Land, Ken has like the traditional woman's role where he's just there to support Barbie. He doesn't really have his own stuff going on. His job is beach.
Hmm.
Uh
He's the damsel in distress.
Yes, he's always the damsel in distress. He's like, yeah, I thought that was really really interesting to see. Okay, yeah, like here's a world where it's not equality, as to your point, Amy. The men are getting treated the way that women are treated in almost every other piece of media that we have, where it's like, the girl, you have like the big action movie, and then there's like the girlfriend, and her role is to be like, come home.
And I think that was the point, right? They were trying to say, like, yeah, we're in a world that's working towards equality, and maybe one day we'll get there, but we're still not in that world where everyone's equal. And I think that's what they were trying to paint. And I thought, they could have gone the route and been happy rainbow clouds, be like, yeah, everyone's equal. But I think they really tried again to reflect it in honestly a female gaze, which you usually don't get. So I
We
thought that
don't
was an
usually
interesting
get.
take. Which really this whole movie is through the female gaze, which is very interesting. One thing I also want to talk about, because this is actually a comment all the way up here, but Abby says, just sitting here jamming to the Barbie soundtrack until they actually start. I actually wanted to talk about that because I think the soundtrack was so well chosen here.
Mhm.
And Greta Gerwig, she usually picks a lot of music I like, and usually it's 90s like indie songs. Because I really like Lady Bird. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they
Oh,
play.
Lady
Yeah.
Bird was great. Yeah.
It's a great movie, and there's a big scene where like Dave Matthews Band's Crash Into Me like plays a big part of the movie. And a lot of her movies, they integrate songs. It's not just like there just to be there. It has to
Yeah.
do with the story. Like the opening song with Lizzo, it's like, yeah, you could just have a random Lizzo song in any other movie and it just be the ending credit song, but this was actually part of the movie. The Dua Lipa song, the score was playing almost the whole entire film. And then obviously the Indigo Girls song Closer Than Fine played like 6 times and was a big point of like, this is the Indigo Girls. And then I love the Matchbox 20 reference. I thought
The
that was
Matchbox
great.
20 reference was where I started to just like lose it in the theater, because I remember when that song was big and like you could not escape it, and
Mhm.
like I don't want to generalize, but men do love Matchbox 20. And so
Ben and
the
Pat
idea
like Matchbox 20.
and the idea of just having to listen to like 4 hours of Push, I just that's torture.
I'd be there with Ken, just singing along.
You're
I'd
like,
be right
"Yeah."
there.
I did not expect the number of musical numbers and choreographed numbers in this film. I should have. I should have expected the choreographed numbers, but I was getting a little bit like, okay, when are we gonna get to the end of the movie? When Ken's choreographed musical number came on, so I'm like, Ryan Gosling, you great, love your voice, go faster.
But it was a
But
fight scene
otherwise,
that was dancing.
I
I thought that was
I
so brilliant.
yeah, and they're
I
like,
loved
he
that
like all he had to
musical.
do was like look, and that was it. And I was like, this is great.
I love that whole musical fight scene sequence where they're fighting, but they know obviously Barbie doesn't have weapons, so they have to
Yeah,
fight with like whatever or is around. That was like that whole sequence was hilarious. And then when it just turns to this dream world where of course how are the Kens gonna fight? It's a dance off. And then as the dance off goes, they like resolve their issues through dance and become
yeah,
friends again. And that it was unbelievably hilarious, but also really well done. Like it's a his Ken's song is a very
it's a
good
banger.
song. Yeah.
I actually want to mention Abby's comment here. I already knew that there was a lot of original music, but the more I listened to the soundtrack, I realized how much the lyrics are POVs of different characters, like an internal monologue. What I found very interesting about this movie is it kind of felt like a musical. Like, I mean,
It
obviously
did, yeah.
Ken even like sings in the movie, but there's so many like musical elements to this movie. And I think that's what's so interesting about Barbie is that again, it kind of feels like a Marvel movie in the regard that it's a franchise, right? It's a recognizable franchise that you're playing with. But then there's a lot of indie elements because there's Greta who's directing it. But then again, there's a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, so it feels like a musical. And it goes back to this umbrella of why I think so many people can like it because it's a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the things I was thinking, like, as I was watching it, was just how relieved I was to be watching a movie I could see. Like, I don't know, at some point, the movies decided that, like, bright colors or any colors just weren't realistic or people didn't like them. And so all the movies I've been seeing for the last few years are so, like, tonally the same color wise. And so it was nice to see a movie where, like, there were, like, color was everywhere and there were bright pops of color and they were really playing with color. Like I thought Greta Gerwig did a really great job in that regard because obviously Barbie is always wearing something fabulous. But I felt very true to the world of Barbie and like even the details of like her walking over her pool all the time
That was
felt
so
very
good.
much like how you would play with the Barbie. I was like, of course the pool's not real.
One note on this, and this is just for the video people, but I wanted to show you guys my top 10 list of movies because I think it's really interesting to show the
Oh.
color palette. So if you look at my top 10 of movies
Of 2023, mind you.
of 2023, like look at this color palette. So just to give you guys are just listening, but you guys should check out the YouTube version of this if you haven't. But you have like Spider-Man, which is really dark, Air is gray, Barbie pink, Creed gray, Scream gray, Missing light blue. Joyride, you have a little bit of like color into
Color's
it.
starting to
Megan,
come in.
pretty
Yeah, there's
orange. Past Lives gray, and then Super Mario Brothers being the only other bright one.
you
All the
basically have
colors.
pink, gray, and purple in this
Yeah.
color scheme.
And I mean,
That's
I feel
it.
like the Spider-Man one doesn't really represent how colorful that movie is, but I think it does kind of make a point about like how afraid movies are now to like have things be bright and colorful and like I don't know when this like trend of having everything be kind of dark started,
The
but they're
Dark
like,
Knight.
oh my God. Like, I mean, it's also bad on TV where like sometimes you can't even see the episodes of something you're
Yeah.
watching, but
the Game of Thrones
But I'll
Battle of
never
Winterfell
forget that
episode.
Game of Thrones
Oh
where
my
I was like,
God.
is my eyesight going? Is the TV off?
I'm so glad that I had seen like yeah, you don't want to be spoiled, right? But Twitter can't help it. There's always and everything is like no spoilers, but you're gonna want to change the settings on your TV, and I'm glad I did because I could still barely see it. Can you guys help me? This movie reminded me of another movie. I don't know what it was, but like the pink, the real world, fake world thing.
I
It
mean, only the
had
Lego movie is the only thing I can think of that is pretty
no,
similar to it.
it's driving me nuts because it inherently reminded me of another film that was very much like real world, fake world, super bright colors, not bright colors. And I
Do you
can't
know
place
any
it.
other
Was it
references
Pleasantville?
to it?
No,
Pleasantville's a
it's
good
just
Because that's like a
example.
it
black and
had
The
white
Truman
and
Show.
yeah.
the
No,
Truman Show.
it just had vibes. I don't know if I'm thinking like an old Disney movie, kind of like an old Disney Channel original movie kind of a thing. Sure, there
Mhm.
was a Disney Channel original movie. There was that one with Tyra Banks where she's a doll that comes to life, but that's
Yeah,
not what
that's
I'm
a good
thinking
one.
of.
Life size.
I've never seen that, but it sounds
You
scary.
should. That's a sleepover movie. You should
Life
watch.
Size is a
Okay,
good
I gotta
movie.
add that to the list.
Life Size was good. Did it have a Lindsay Lohan in it?
Yeah, Lindsay
Yeah,
Lohan
that's
is
right.
in it.
She was in
Really?
it. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was.
she's
We should have a Lindsay Lohan sleepover movie party
Yes.
there's a lot.
episode.
We would have to
Freaky
pick, we
Friday
would have
is
to
the
pick.
best though.
Oh, Freaky Friday is so good.
It's her best
So
film by honestly, I think it's better than Mean Girls. Just saying.
Gasp.
Yeah, I love Freaky
That is
Friday.
that is a hot take,
whoa,
Kat.
Yeah,
whoa,
take
whoa. That's controversial
Shots
topic.
fired.
So my question for you, one of my friends, before I had seen the movie, she told me, she was like, I really liked the first half of the movie. And then the second half of the movie lost me. And I was, kind of prepped for, I'm curious what she means by that. And I can tell exactly where I'm like, oh, once they get back and they've got the patriarchyville, the Kenville that they're trying to get rid of, I can understand that switch. And I do kind of agree that I think that I really enjoyed the first half of the movie where the idea was about the mom and her daughter and quote real life Barbie and the struggles that like a working mom or a normal mom or just a normal woman, a normal person has to go through, just having to deal with emotions and depression and things like that. And I connected with that. And then I kind of dropped off at the Kenville stuff. Like it was almost too much for me. How did you guys feel about that shift in like quite literally a plot shift? It felt like before the winter break and after the winter break of a TV show. It felt very
so
drastic to
the
me.
Barbie Dream House and the Mojo Jojo Casa house.
Casa House? Yes, just like that.
It didn't feel like a different movie though. I felt like it made sense to what they were talking about when Ken went to the real world and like what he was embracing. So I never felt like a whiplash by any means, but I could see like people tuning out after. I think there's parts that are a little bloated, right? Because like you were saying, Amy, like there's a lot to be said, and maybe honestly, if the movie was a little longer, which is so interesting because I don't want the movie to be longer because I do not like 3-hour movies.
Me neither.
Yeah, be longer, but
maybe in that circumstance, maybe it would have been a little less bloated in certain areas. But I don't think it didn't feel like, oh, this is a different movie. Like I never got out of it. It's just like, oh, they're trying to say something different.
yeah, it didn't bother me either when they got back and like suddenly it's the Ken world. I could see how it felt like a little different, but to Kat's point, like I think the tone of the movie stayed the same. And I do think that they pulled a lot of the storylines through. So like, the mother gets to really bond with her daughter while they're trying to save Barbieville, and the daughter finally turns around to like actually care about what's going on instead of thinking the whole thing is like lame and stupid. And I love, and that's in that portion of the movie is where we get America Ferrera's like really good speech about how impossible it is to be a woman and what all the contradictions of like you have to do this but you also have to do this and like you have to do this but not too much but also not too little.
I think it's also
that's going on my audition monologue list. I was like, I'm gonna just
I read something that said that Meryl Streep, I guess, read that read that speech and was like, that is a good speech.
Like,
And
I want to perform that.
yeah, I
Is
want to
what
perform
Meryl
that. And
Streep said.
America Ferrera was like, oh my gosh, so this is a lot of pressure now.
Yeah, because it is such a you could tell it's such an actor's monologue, and it
Hmm.
will be a monologue in the next 5-10 years that people will be saying. I also thought it was really interesting and convenient in a good way, where all the humans from the real world is like, yeah, Barbie Land exists, let's go, and there's no like having to convince anybody.
Yeah, the like
I
the
did like that.
the overall heightened reality of even reality, I thought was smart and really funny. Where they're like when they're in Mattel and the cubicles are like these giant prison cells essentially, and they're in this gray cubicle office, and then they like go up and like the board of who's all men, but that also they have the ghost of the creator of Barbie who just lives on the 17th floor. Like I actually kind of liked the fact that instead of like taking the character and bringing her to like a very real world, they took her to like a heightened version of the real world where like
Hmm.
America Ferrara's character immediately is like, I think that's my doll. Like it doesn't take her that long to like make that
No.
Put the
logic
pieces
leap.
together.
She's just like, oh, that is actual Barbie.
I loved that the board members and Will Ferrell's character, like the struggles that they had with daily life, like catching Barbie, and instead of going around the cubicles, they're like, just go over it. It's faster. Just go over it. Or like where they're trying to get out of the building and they can't figure out how to get through the door without their key card.
She
Yeah.
jumps over the
They're like, I
turnstile and
don't
they're
have my
like,
key card.
I don't have my key.
And,
That
it,
killed me.
and
And
Will
then they get through.
Ferrell.
Go
Oh,
ahead. No,
no,
it
no,
was
you
just, it cracked
finish.
me up. It was good stuff.
And Will Ferrell's interesting because I don't tend to like his roles very often. Like I don't like Elf.
I
I
didn't
know.
I was
either.
gonna say, I was actually gonna
Uh,
say that parts of this movie did have sort of an elf
Elf
quality to
vibe.
them, though. Like the fact that she goes from Barbie Land and he goes from like the North Pole, and they go into
True.
reality, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, it sucks out here."
He only makes one type of film because he's in the Lego movie, and he's in Elf. They're all the same movie. But what I liked about Will Ferrell's character here is that almost, he is this evil CEO and he's like trying to get Barbie, but at the same time, there's this moment where he talks about like, oh, let's just sell Ken dolls. And he's like, well, no, I like the foundation of Barbie, and that's important to
Yeah.
me. So there's like this little human quality of even the evil CEO.
Yeah, I liked that also as like a critique of capitalism, of that like the capitalism that's like, no, like we're making a difference, but like at the end of the day, like it still comes down to money. He's like,
Hmm.
yeah, no, like we don't want to sell Ken dolls, we don't want to sell Mojo Jojo Casa houses, we want to sell Barbie dream houses, but like we do want to make sure that we're gonna make a lot of money on that. Like I love at the end when America Ferrara's character is pitching her doll, and he's like, I don't really like that, and then somebody
Yeah.
whispers,
Gonna
projections
make
show it's
money.
going to make a lot of money. And he's like, okay, we got it. And green light.
If I had to cast myself in this movie, it would be the man who whispered. That's gonna make a lot of money.
Make a lot of money. Cat's like doing the projections, like, whoa.
So
Because every single
let's
time after we see a movie, sometimes like my friends will be like, "Who do you think you were in the movie? We did it for Joyride." I'm like, "In Barbie,
I
that would
love
be
that
my
idea.
character."
Hey,
Yeah, it's
wait, no,
fun.
hold on.
Hilarious.
Now, Morgan, who are you in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm probably like one of the Barbies, but I don't know which one.
I, I don't know who I would be. I feel like in a like honestly, like if we're getting like real, I definitely identified with America Ferrera's character. Like
Hmm.
she's weird, she's dark, she's got this kind of like she's depressed, feels lonely. Even in a world where she has a daughter, she has a great job, she has a husband, she still feels lonely. And the idea that her kind of that depression can stretch beyond worlds and literally influence things that she doesn't even see. Now that's a commentary. Like the idea that how she feels and what she's hiding, that she's hiding it so internalized that it's literally affecting a completely alternate universe. Like
Right.
that to me was really powerful in this film, and that to me was more powerful than anything else. even her speech where she's talking about the contradictory nature of what it means to be a woman, what we have to be this, but also that. I absolutely loved that, but just there's like one moment where she's really talking about the depression and how it affects her and her relationship with her daughter. That to me was really, really impactful, and I thought beautifully well done.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the story that America Ferrera's character had in this movie, and I really also think that we talked about the movie talks about a lot of different things, but like there's definitely something that it's like saying about nostalgia that like she's
Mm,
nostalgic for this time of her life where her and her daughter played with her daughter's Barbies, and like she really she wants to kind of go back to that time, and also she did that because she used to play with Barbie, so it's the idea that like Barbie means so much more to people just because they were there when you were little and
mhm.
they were part of your life growing up.
It spans generations too, because it is a long-lasting brand. I forget it was like the 50s, right? They
I
said
think
is
I think the first Barbie was in the 50s. Yeah, it was the bathing suit Barbie.
that's a lot of years.
It is a lot of years. One of the things I really liked about the movie, and it's so funny, I just read an article today that said that like the executives wanted to initially cut this scene, but it's a scene where she's at the bus stop and looks over at the old lady
Yeah, and that's a great scene.
and says, "You're beautiful." And the old lady says, "I know." And it's such a great scene, but it's also like so interesting because Barbie's never seen anybody old. So that is a literally to
Hmm.
her is like a real reaction. Like Barbie in Barbie Land, you never
You don't
age.
age.
You just stay young forever.
I didn't
And
think
the
about that.
idea of like her seeing age as being beautiful, as being something that she doesn't have. And at the end of the movie is something that she chooses. Like she's like, I want to go out in the world and I want to like live a life and I want to age. I want to die. Like the whole point, the whole movie is kind of her, her first thought was like thoughts of death is like uh what what turned her from like stereotypical Barbie and started her on this journey. And at the end, she kind of, in some weird way, she kind of chooses death. Like now she's going to live a
Yeah.
normal human life and she's eventually going to get old and die. But I did think it's like such a commentary on like the executives, especially right now during the strike, where they were like, I don't know about this scene that like it turns out is like very integral to the heart of the movie. Like maybe we can lose it.
And I think what's interesting about this movie in particular, and especially Margot Robbie, who I love as an actress, she's legit one of my favorite actresses. Anytime she's in a movie, I'll go see it. Like I think she's brilliant in everything, and that's what's so great about Barbie. As you could tell, Greta and Margot had such a voice in this film, and they stood by their ground. And for once, the executives allowed them to do it. Because if you look at Margot Robbie and how many times with Harley Quinn that she's just like, I really want to do this, and they're like, Margot, no. And he's like, but I really want to do this. No, Margot. Even though she loves that character and like she's obviously a smart person, seems like she makes good story decisions, and they won't allow her to do anything. But in this one movie, she made a lot of decisions. She was the producer of the film, and it went really, really well for her. So it was really cool to see these two women actually have a voice and be able to create the movie they wanted to, which is so rare. But I think we are in this new era of the filmmaker and the creatives becoming first, because we also in DC Comics having James Gunn run DC films, I think is really important, where he's not just this like, EP and this producer exec.
Mhm.
He is a filmmaker, and that's what comes first. So I'm curious to see if that's also gonna come with these DC films.
So something I want to just chat about is the ending because I'm torn. Part of me, um, I'm laughing at the comment that we just posted. So for
Oh
those
yeah,
of you who we
Rachel
didn't
says
actually bring it up,
oh yeah.
we have if you are a Patreon member, at the $10 legendary listener level, you get to join these streams for free and comment in. So what did Rachel just say?
Want to pull it up? Barbie getting her Michael from the Good Place arc for sure. If you guys watch the Good Place, I also want to mention Abby says, "I'm the mom that acts Ken for the time." That is a good character in the movie. And
For
then Rachel
sure.
Yes.
says, "I loved Weird Barbie and Writer Barbie." And surprisingly enough, we have not talked about Weird Barbie, but she was a
Yeah,
good
it
character.
is
Yeah.
kind of surprising we didn't talk. I feel like we need to get into that later, but Weird Barbie was it and Kate McKinnon was hilarious in this movie.
So For me, I'm torn on the ending because part of me really wanted America Ferrera's character. I wanted to see something about how her character and her daughter have the relationship. I wanted to see what their quote real world relationship looks like now. Like I wanted to see them in their home life, even just like a quick little cut scene. Or I wanted to see her maybe be like in the boardroom with the boys at Mattel, but at the same time, we're also talking about the idea of ordinary Barbie. And it's not just going to be a sudden fix. You can't just suddenly you can't just suddenly get the boardroom position. And so I'm torn because I really, really did want to see more of her character. I feel like there's just not enough of a resolution with those two characters. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, that's unfortunately the real world. And so maybe that's the commentary that they're making.
And I think that's what Greta likes to do in her films. Again, I'm glad that both of you guys saw Lady Bird. 'Cause just recently, I rewatched the opening scene of that movie. I don't know if that background noise. But I just watched the opening scene of Lady Bird, and it's the conversation between her mom and Lady Bird, where they're having like a nice time. They're talking about music or something, and they're laughing. And then in the middle of the scene, someone says something and it turns the other person off and they start to fight with each other, and it's a very organic scene. And then Lady Bird like throws herself out of the car and you're like, whoa, okay, this is how you open up a film. It's like maybe the second or third scene of the film, but what's interesting is like that's a really organic real relationship between a mother and daughter sometimes. And I thought if you had the magical moment of America Ferrera's character being in the boardroom and now being the CEO, that's not really a reality
Hmm.
just because she went to Barbie World. Like, yeah, maybe her idea of the doll is going to happen. That's slowly going to grow. And same thing for her daughter. Like, I'm sure they are closer because they had this adventure, but I'm also sure they're going to bicker and fight in the future
Hmm.
because she's not going to change as a person. And what I like about this movie, and as much as I want a Barbie 2, Barbie 3, Barbie 4, I'm so tired of watching a franchise movie like a Marvel movie or DC movie that has to have like, oh, go watch this next Barbie movie. It's all about Ken. I like that it was an ending. I like that like
Yeah.
I don't want to watch I do want to watch more, but if this is over and this is the end, this is just a good movie, you know?
Yeah,
Give me
it
one
had
Barbie
it
movie.
had a complete story. I felt completely satisfied at the end of the movie. It told like a complete tale. Yeah, I agree in that I loved it, and I'm not proud. I would go see another one. But I don't feel like I need another one. I almost kind of like that this feels like a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard that Mattel is starting their own cinematic universe or
No.
whatever.
Okay, but
I'm not
they've
interested in the Hot Wheels movie or whatever is gonna come
no,
down, but
but
I
I
would see a
am
Hot
very
Wheels
much
I mean, I'll
here.
go see it, but I'm not interested in it.
I'm here for the princess and the pauper Barbie edition. I'm here for Barbie
What's
Swan
owned
Lake.
by Mattel? Let me
I
see like
I'm
what
here
movies
for
are.
all the Barbie animated movies coming
There's
to
a
life. I'm
Barney
so
film.
here.
Okay, here's the films coming up from Mattel. Get ready. There's okay, give me a minute. There's Barbie,
Barney?
of course. There's Barney, like Barney the dinosaur. There's Hot Wheels, so get ready.
I knew it.
American Girl's coming
I
out.
hope
That
they
one will
get
be
I hope
interesting.
I hope they get Vin Diesel for Hot Wheels. I feel like it's only right.
No, well, don't worry,
And
Polly Pocket.
Vin, like, gets out of the little car and he's like, "Family."
That's
I would
funny.
love that. Uno might be a movie. The
Uno?
card game.
No.
Thomas the Train.
Oh
Rock'em
my
Sock'em
god.
Robots.
The
You're
Rock'em
kidding.
okay, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, I feel like I
Oh my
would so
god.
see that movie, that sounds
I
amazing,
would watch
but
every single one of these if Greta Gerwig is directing it.
yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what you can take away from this, like, the Barbieheimer weekend is that people know Greta Gerwig is a good director and have affection for Barbie, and also people like Christopher Nolan and, like period pieces. So I feel like both of these movies were helmed by directors that like people like have their own vision, do things their own way. It wasn't didn't feel like it had been coming out of some sort of like assembly line of like, Disney
Hmm.
movies or, Marvel movies or whatever it was. Like they felt like unique concepts, even if they're based on like a historical figure or like a doll we've all had.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you wanted who wanted Amy Morgan,
Yeah,
who wanted to read some
Abby
comments.
Abby in the chat says, I'm definitely good with this one standing alone. I loved it enough to be a full story on its own, and we could fill in the rest. And then Rachel said, I mean, there have already been at least 4 American Girls based on the historical dolls already, or American Girl movies, which I did not know, and now I'm
Have
going to
there
have to
been?
look up.
Oh my God, I really
Now I
missed
gotta look
out
it
on
up.
the American Girl movies because obviously I read those books.
I did not, but yeah, no, I think it's interesting also with these films, like you were saying, like it's not from a Disney point of view or really Disney or I don't know. I don't think it's a Warner. No, it is a Warner Brothers film. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it is a Warner
So I
Brothers film.
remember the building we saw in the background. But no, it's interesting because I feel like this film, and this goes to the Christopher Nolan too. And this is nothing against Marvel or DC, but like highbrow films, let's call it. Not saying that Marvel's lowbrow, but these are coming from filmmakers that are like film, like they're they're digging into the trenches of what film is. And again, nothing against Marvel or DC, but they definitely again, they're known filmmakers for creating more indie films, right? Or even Christopher Nolan, not so much indie films, but creating things that are just standalone stuff. And I think that's what's so powerful about this weekend is that it's not Iron Man that's making people go to the theater. And granted, it was Barbie and it's a known thing. And I guess the atomic bomb is a known thing that happened in the world. But
That's the quote of the day, and I guess the atomic bomb is a known thing that happened
we
in
all
the
we all
world.
we all remember that Kat knows a lot about history. That's been well
So much about
established.
history. Now, hold
no,
on,
the
hold
point.
on. Nope. Now we gotta know, Kat,
I don't know
who
anything
is
about that.
Oppenheimer? Like, how is he
He's a
connected to the
scientist of
atomic
some.
bomb?
He's like helped create it.
What?
Create it. He helped create it? Question mark.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'm actually really impressed right now.
I was
Kat.
going to say I would give that to her. I feel like that's accurate
That's
enough.
pretty good. That's accurate enough.
I know what's his face. Einstein also was part of it.
That is true.
I hear he
Okay,
makes
there
a
you go.
guest appearance in Oppenheimer.
Einstein.
Special guest star
Actual
Einstein.
I heard that JFK is name dropped like I saw a tweet about this that JFK's name dropped like it's Bruce Wayne in a villain's origin film.
That's what I heard too. That they're like that they like build up to it and they're like that president was JFK. And everybody in the ooh.
But going back to what I was saying is that it's interesting to see like films that are just like it's almost built on the idea of just wanting to see a good film. It's not just built on an idea. It's like here's the 10th Marvel film. I gotta go see it. And I miss that. I miss going, having a Star Wars moment or Indiana Jones moment where everyone's just going to theater because they're like, this is a really cool movie. And I hope we have more phenomenons like this. So I really don't remember last time everyone wanted to go to the theater because it was an original film. That was the first movie
I know
in the franchise, let's call it.
I also think it feels really good that this is like a movie that was marketed at women and like about women that did so well at the box office. Like
Yeah.
I feel like every couple years this happens and then there are all these think pieces about like, do women see movies? And I'm
Do they not to see rom-coms?
right? Like what? This is insane. And I feel like hopefully this means that we'll get more female directors, more female focused movies, more movies with like strong female casts or big female casts. Because now we've proven we'll go out and we'll see it. We'll get dressed up and we'll see it. And it'll make a lot of money. That's the only way anything ever changes in Hollywood, it seems, under under capitalism, is if something makes a bunch of money. And so I mean the good
Guess
thing
what?
about
Men will go see it too. Weird.
yeah, weird that the men also enjoy the movie.
Yeah, I'll always take it back to Secret World of Alex Mack. But Secret World of Alex Mack, when that show came out, a lot of like they originally was a guy, and a lot of the execs were like, "Oh, no one's gonna watch it because it's a woman, right?" And then they proved it wrong. Like it didn't matter. Like because it was a woman, more people watched it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it's an interesting thing to see, and I hope we get to see more female-led films and more stuff like this. I want to be excited about going to the movies and having everyone be like, "Nah, I gotta go to the movies this weekend," and actually that's their plan because that's the big. Even my brother, like he's desperate to go see Barbie. He's gonna he's literally seeing this week and squeezing it in because he's like, "I gotta go see Barbie," because he's gonna see Oppenheimer with me. But he's like, "But I gotta see Barbie this week too." I'm like, "Why don't you see it next week?" It's like it'll be old news then.
Oh, and that's the other thing is like it feels like if you don't see Barbie like you're not part of the conversation. Like you're gonna miss the jokes. Like I've seen so many was it Mojo Dojo Casa House
Mm.
jokes like flying around the internet. I've seen so many Barbie memes. Like it does really feel like it's one of the rare things like now that our media ecosystem is so fragmented that like we're all excited about at the same time and like we're all going to see and talk about, which is also kind of a nice experience. Like now that the culture isn't like a monoculture anymore, sometimes you'll be talking to somebody that's like never heard of the thing you're watching or the thing you're excited about, but like
Especially Twitter
everyone
now.
exactly, but like now everyone's heard of Barbie. Like one of my mom's friends texted me a picture today of her in front of the Barbie poster, like going to see the movie. And I texted her back me in front of the Barbie poster from when I went to see the movie. It's like it feels like everybody, regardless of age, is like really into Barbie. So like going to see this movie. So it is a nice kind of a nice thing that we're all sort of doing this together.
Yeah. I know we wanted to talk about Weird Barbie. I just wanted to say I thought it was a cool character and a cool commentary. I kind of wish there was even more with her, like a more of a full circle with her, but Kate McKinnon played the role well.
I like that she got at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, she got like to do something besides like live in her house on the outskirts of Barbieville being
Hmm.
weird and stuck in the splits. Like she got to have a actual position in like the Barbie, government.
I also like the fact that there is a commentary that just because you are not stereotypical, that just because you're quote weird, doesn't mean you're not the most powerful Barbie. Like literally, she was astrophysics time continuum Barbie. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need to travel to a different universe? Come to me. I got you." Like
Right.
just because you don't fit in, just because you might represent yourself a little differently doesn't mean you're not valuable and doesn't mean you're not powerful. And I really really loved that.
I really like that too. I also loved that moment when she offers her the high heel and the Birkenstock, and then
She's
Barbie
like, "High
keeps
heel."
trying to take the high heel, and she's like, "No, no, no, this is the one.
This is
You
the one.
have to take this one. I was
Yep.
It's
just
like it's
trying to
not
give
a
you a choice."
choice. There,
So
there's
good.
a lot of good jokes that do land in this movie. I think it's a actual genuinely funny movie.
I
Even
Yeah,
though they're trying to make the jokes more for everybody, it's not a distinct joke, but yeah,
I,
no, it works.
I will say that the last joke of the movie really got me. I laughed so hard.
It
Oh
took me a
yeah,
half a
no,
second. I was
yeah.
like, "What? Oh."
That was a great way to end the
Especially
movie.
because
I
they
was like,
set
all
it up
right.
making you think she was going to go in and be like, "I'm here for the interview."
Yeah,
Right,
And
right.
instead, she's, "I'm here for the gynecologist." And I was like, "What is her gynecologist going to think?" And be like,
It will be a quick appointment.
Well,
For
yeah,
sure.
exactly. It's
"No,
just like the minutia of being a woman in the world now is that this is something that she has to worry about.
well, I think I was
No, they
assuming she
apply.
was
They
gonna like get
imply.
some like
Yeah.
work done.
She is gonna get some
Like
work done
she
for
doesn't
sure.
have things she needs. So
That's how
she's
I
gotta that's how I
yeah.
interpreted it. She's gonna get some work
Oh.
done.
I interpreted it as like she's like a full human being now, so like she
Oh
has
no,
to
but she
go.
says in the beginning of the film that she doesn't have a vagina.
Well, that was when she was a doll. At the end of the movie, she's a person.
I don't think she had it in the real world either. Oh no, that's
Uh-uh.
true because she does transform though.
No, but in
Yeah.
the
So
real world, when they're skating, that's when she says, and the construction worker, she's like,
yeah,
I don't
but
have.
Morgan's saying because the
Oh,
person created her to be a human, she
Yeah,
probably
like at
this
does.
the
is an
end of the
interesting
movie,
debate.
she chooses to be like a real human being who's going to like age and have bad things happen to them. And I think
And
as
get a
part of
pap
that,
smear.
she has like a human body and now has to go get a pap smear. Yeah.
Okay, so that is the question. This is the question that I want our listeners to answer for us. Rachel says I assumed that her becoming human would give her the equipment she didn't have before, but Kat and I were under the impression that
I
that was
didn't think
equipment
so.
she was going to
Yeah.
need to get built in. The gynecologist is going to be like, "What?" So you
And
tell
I like
us.
the movie ended that way because also going back to every movie needs an ending credit. I was so happy I just left the movie and be like, I don't have to wait. I can just leave.
Yeah,
And there-
I watched the thing with all the old discontinued dolls, which by the way, I loved like the Barbie lore that they managed to sneak into this movie, that they had like earring Ken and like these weird ones that I hadn't even heard of. The one with the doll where you put her arm up and her boobs grow is insane. I can't believe that was a real
I'm
doll.
guessing it's
Yeah.
real. If you
Yeah, it
love
seems like
Barbie,
it
there's a
would
lot of references here.
be. Yes, if you're like into the lore of Barbie. I do also love that like I looked up an article before I saw the movie about Alan and like learned the full backstory of like Alan and Midge,
Who's
and
Alan?
the fact that they brought Alan into the movie and he became like a major part, like Michael Cera was so funny in that.
He was
So
great. I really liked his character. I thought like I enjoyed his commentary as well. He's like, I'm not like the other guys.
he's like, I don't actually like I don't like it here. I'm not that into horses. Like I don't know what to do. Like get me out of here, please.
He never got out.
No,
But
poor Alan.
let's go around the table and give our overall thoughts. So, Amy, overall thoughts.
Sorry, my dogs are all barking right now.
Oh no.
Morgan, you go first.
Sure,
All right,
yeah.
Morgan.
I really liked this movie. I thought it was really well done. I thought Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie were both amazing. Uh Ryan Gosling was incredible. He really like was Ken. And that character could have been, I feel like, so over the top, and he was, but like Ryan Gosling really did ground him in like the emotions. And I thought Margot Robbie was incredible in the movie. I thought it was funny. I thought it had like good themes, good music. I love a good musical, so I love that there were some musical bits. Honestly, this has been my probably one of my favorite movies I've seen in ages.
No, and again, it was a really fun movie experience. It was hard for me to like rate this one because I had the Spider-Man movie that came out, so I was like, I really love that one. And then I really liked Air. I thought that was a great movie. And then I put Barbie right after that but they're all like, there's so many good movies that came out this year, so it was a fun one to put together. So, Amy, overall thoughts.
I see a dog. I see a
See a
dog.
dog.
I see food and a dog.
My
Probably
dog
not
just
giving
tried to
overall
steal
thoughts.
my cheese.
Not the cheap.
I enjoyed it a lot. I think that it's the kind of movie where I could go see it again with friends and I would really enjoy it. Um, there was enough nostalgia in it. There were some good stories in it. I think for me it was just a little overwhelming at the end, but otherwise I
Mhm.
thought that the pacing was really well done. I just kind of wish that the pacing at the end had been a little bit more strategic, but I definitely, like you said, Kat, I really appreciated the moments where you're like, this is directed by an artist. You could feel that artwork in there. And you know all the pictures and there's one clip where you can see them like you see a bunch of little girls playing with dolls towards the end. It's like a montage of like back in the day of girls playing with dolls and girls running around and stuff. I would bet money that that's actual footage from the cast.
No, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
figured that too. Like it was
Yeah, and I
footage
thought that that
from.
was really cool.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
that
I
was
like that
interesting.
aspect of like throughout time too. You could tell some of it was like, probably older like home video footage and some of it was like newer. I thought that that was really like made it more powerful.
Mhm.
Uh
Now, we do have some feedback, right? Oh, and also a
yeah.
comment. So,
I saw a comment from Abby who said, while I do wish that there was a little more focus on the mother daughter Barbie of it all, I absolutely loved it. Had a blast watching it, laughed for nearly 2 hours. It was enough. As soon as we got out of the movie, Mike was like, "Do you think that they have like a Knuff hat?" And I was like, "I am
they will.
sure that they do." And I'm sure it's on its way to us as we speak. I was like, I got to get a Barbie hat. We got to match.
That'd be so fun. There's definitely a lot of merch that's coming out for Barbie. I'm sure that also the
Oh my
sweatshirt,
gosh.
the fluffy sweatshirt's definitely gonna be happening with the
Oh,
Ken enough.
for sure.
So let's
Um,
get into some feedback that we've gotten throughout the weeks, and you guys should give us feedback. That way we can read them on the
Yes,
show.
definitely tweet us, DM us or send us emails at thelegendaryladies@gmail.com and we will read your feedback. So we are a little bit behind in feedback, so I'm gonna skim through it, but I will let you know to what it refers. So our first email is from Swarley. Swarley says, "Hello, legendary ladies. Gosh, it's been far too long. Been through some life stuff lately, like including a cross country move and house hunting, which is never fun.
That is a
But so
lot.
that is a lot. But I think things are close to settling down. I still miss Legends of Tomorrow like crazy, but y'all are such a comfort podcast. I just listened to y'all's top 5 queer canon ships episode, and much like the show, it felt like catching up with old friends. This should surprise precisely 0 of you, but when I saw the title, my mind immediately went to, I wonder what kind of methodology they used in their rankings. Did they look at total screen time, number of fanfics, Twitter posts, etc.?
Not
There was
even.
no
We
methodology at all.
No methodology at all. Just wanted to give a little love to some under-repped ships. Casey from NCIS Hawaii, Bradley and Laura from the morning show. They don't have a fun ship
I've been
name.
watching the morning show.
Oh,
It's a good show. I'm enjoying it.
I'll have to catch that. And Elena and Maeve from The Boys. She also says, I hope we're doing great. Love the legendary lists idea. Do you think you'll do an episode on the or on the SAG-AFTRA strike? So we already did one on the WGA strike, which you can listen to. We did a great interview, and we are hoping to do one on the SAG strike as well. Oh, and Swirly says, Kat is 100% right on Alex Mack. I've had a Just Watch alert set up for that show for years to find it on streaming, but no luck.
I'm glad I made an Alex Mack reference again.
I feel like if you're playing like a drinking game for our podcast, Alex Mack showing up at some point in the podcast is definitely going to be a drink.
Yeah, you know what? I'm proud of it.
Okay, so we actually got
Rachel figured it out.
What?
This was what I was thinking of. Rachel in the comments, she said, I just realized that all the different Barbies
Oh.
and their roles reminded me of the various Avas from Legends of Tomorrow. That's what this struck me. That's what there was that
God, that's
overlying like
100%.
connection that I couldn't make. Thank you, Rachel.
I have
Yeah.
no idea how we forgot to we didn't nobody put that together.
Uh-huh.
But yes,
And
Legends of Tomorrow
loved
is a
that
Disney
episode.
movie.
That's too funny. And we also loved that episode too. So we're like, I don't know, I can't think of what we're missing. Okay, so we got a couple pieces of feedback from the Ted Lasso episode.
That is a popular episode,
which is
actually.
I think is kind of hilarious. Obviously we know a lot about sports. So I'm sure there's no corrections in any of these emails. So we got an email from Tara.
We talked about softball a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna spoiler alert, there are going to be some corrections about softball coming right at you.
I'm ready. I look, when I was giving the knowledge, I specifically said I don't think I'm right about any of this.
This was the episode I was not on, by the way.
No,
so
you
any
would've
of these
loved it.
errors, not my fault.
You're like, this is not my responsibility.
I wonder if Amy would have helped with that. Would you have been like, no, Kat, this is
Absolutely
the
not.
actual softball information?
What if Amy was like, actually, I'm really into softball, and so I have
played
some
it for a
corrections.
very long time. Nope. I never really sportsed. I basketballed until I broke my pinky, and that was it.
Oh no!
How long did that take?
Third grade. I did do third grade.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know if that counts.
Hey, I almost said I hit a couple balls when I was playing with you, but that's not basketball.
I don't.
No.
I mean, I think if you did that, maybe you were playing the game wrong, so that could have been an issue. Okay, so we have an email from Tara who says, "Hi, ladies. I've been loving the duo episodes, and something on the last one with Kat and Morgan caught my attention. When talking about women's professional sports leagues and soccer,
Look,
you all oh no okay I'm sure we got everything right. You all had mentioned going to the Olympics, but I wanted to let you know that there's actually a US based women's professional soccer league called the NWSL. 12 teams play around the country with 2 more expansions coming next year, and you can
soccer
see
I'm not surprised by, though, because they have the
No.
World Cup. So that one I'm not surprised about.
that doesn't surprise me either. Tara goes on to say, you can see players like Alex Morgan and Megan Rapone right in your own town. The season is halfway through right now, and there's also a great documentary on HBO Max or just Max now, I guess, about the new LA team that they started last year called Angel City. Highly recommend. Just wanted to shed some light on a pro sports league that not a lot of people know about.
I don't feel as bad about this one because so far I've not been wrong.
That's true. I will say, we knew that there's professional women's soccer, but it is cool that the league is expanding. Like the professional women's soccer team is like traditionally very good, especially when it's like the US team.
Well, yeah, one thing I have actually been watching, not religiously, but at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm going to sleep, I'm like, what can I watch to help me go to sleep? And I've been watching the Women's Soccer World Cup.
Oh.
And it is interesting because, like, it's the one sport, and obviously there's a whole documentary about like how they're underpaid and all that, but it's the one sport where it's actually more popular than the men's soccer, I would say.
I
The
know.
women are actually doing very well. And this is
The women are
like,
winning more consistently, so
Sorry, it's a bug
and
on
with
me.
oh no.
oh
I
You
will
no.
don't know this if you're listening. I'm outside because it's literally too hot in my apartment to record, and a giant bug just landed on me.
Oh
I'm
no.
okay. I'm fine. I'm good.
I'm never a react to bugs type person, but I
Oh
love when people
really?
Ugh.
do. No.
I'm like, get it away from me, somebody else take care of it. Bug person.
Jesus, take the
Um
wheel.
Yeah.
take the wheel for sure. But something interesting, but going back to the something that's interesting is that if they win, this is like the most. Don't quote me on this, but it's like they win this, they win a record of like most consecutive wins in any soccer in the U.S. I think. So it's like some sort of record if they win this World Cup because they won like a lot before. So if they
Whoa.
win this, they get some sort of record. But yeah, I think
We're
it's
gonna have
interesting.
corrections come in about
Oh
what
yeah.
record they would have. And you know what? Send the legendaryladies@gmail.com. Feel free to tweet us, legends_podcast. I'm sure as we talk more about sports, I will be wrong many times as well. It's probably not good that like I was on the sports podcast, and that's probably why we have so many emails gently correcting us. Um, speaking of, we have one from Caroline who says, "Hello, ladies. I was listening to your Ted Lasso episode and heard your call for a softball professional, and I volunteer
I
as
also, just to
tribute."
interject for a second, I think what's so fun about the comments is that most of the comments have to do with the actual sport of Ted Lasso.
I know
And not
it's all
actually Ted
about
Lasso.
it's all about softball, which does not play into Ted Lasso in any way. Yeah, that is how our podcasts usually go. So Caroline says, first off, the armbands the players wear have replaced the good old fashioned signs a coach used to give to the players. So for
So I
offense,
was
it
right.
so yeah, so for offense, it tells the player to bunt, steal, etc. For pitchers and catchers, it tells them what pitch to throw, drop, rise, etc. So, Kat, good job. Secondly,
Yeah.
secondly, there are professional opportunities for players after college,
I'm sorry.
but you maybe listen, you're not that
Oh,
wrong.
oh.
Caroline says, but sadly, they are limited. As you found
The
in your
10 minutes of research actually did well.
you did it, Kat. As you found in your Google search, there is the Women's Professional Fast Pitch League, which is a reincarnation of many leagues over the years. There's also Athletes Unlimited for softball. They also have volleyball, women's basketball, and some other sports. This is a unique league because it's almost like a fantasy league where there are 4 teams and the players earn points each weekend for their performance, home runs, steals, strikeouts, etc. And the top 4 point getters get to choose their team each week.
Oh my,
So,
that's fun.
so they are constantly changing. This sounds exhausting, by the way. That's just a Morgan.
I would
note.
watch it
That's
though.
getting to know your
Every
coworkers every week.
Oh
No.
my God.
that
I
would keep
couldn't.
things interesting though. If you watched a Yankee game and you're like, where's
No.
A-Rod? Where's the whatever anyone else? Where's
Yeah,
Derek
like
Jeter?
they're on whatever
They're
team
not on
they
the
want
team
to be
anymore.
on.
They're like, well, what are they on another team? They're not even playing. This is crazy.
This is yeah, I've never heard of it. It really does sound like fantasy football. That's so funny. Caroline says it's like it's like PE class as an adult. The season runs throughout the summer and you can catch a lot of their games on ESPN. The players get base pay to participate and earn more money depending on how high they finish in the final point standings. As you suspected, no one is getting rich off of these opportunities, and a lot of these players are college coaches who make it work with their schedules. Um,
Wow.
a little known fact is there are professional opportunities for players to play overseas. Caroline says, I myself coached in the Netherlands for 5 years in the professional league
Whoa.
there.
You know a
I
lot about
I cannot
softball.
believe one of the things I like the most about this podcast is that I feel like we can put a call out for any kind of professional and we'll get like the most detailed email being like, love
know
you
what?
guys, adore the podcast. You're very wrong about this, and I'm going to tell you very specifically how.
and this is my 5 year
5 years
expertise.
coaching in the Netherlands on like a professional team, but like I just have a little bit of knowledge. Like, no, you know what you're talking about.
I think that we should put a call out for our resident obstetrics doctor Fiona, who can tell us whether or not she thinks that
What
Barbie
was her take on that last
got the
scene in
equipment or
Barbie?
not. And if she
That's a
didn't get
Patreon
the
episode.
equipment, is it feasible? I think it is.
Fiona, write
I'm
in. Write in.
sure it is.
Going back to Caroline's email, in Europe, the leagues are made up of clubs, like in Ted Lasso, and the highest leagues are the professional league, and teams are constantly promoting and demoting to different leagues.
Like Ted
Like
Lasso.
Ted Lasso. If you want to make a living playing softball professionally, you have to be good enough to play in the Japan League. This actually does make a lot of sense to me. So, like, right out
Japan
of
does have a lot of
college,
baseball.
yeah, right out of college, I worked at a Japanese newspaper and I helped out the sports correspondent. And basically, all we did was focus on baseball. Like, they sometimes cared what was happening in like other sports, but mostly they just cared about baseball. Yeah, it's
So
baseball's
interesting.
huge over there.
And I don't know if baseball's, again, guys, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if baseball's always in the Olympics.
I feel like it's gotta be because it's just such a like a foundational sport.
I know
But
basketball is.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure about, let's see,
So
baseball
I'm gonna be
Olympics.
honest. I am a Winter Olympics girly, but I'm not really a Summer Olympics girly. Like, I
Oh,
don't
really? I'm all
care
summer.
that much. Oh yeah, like
Look at this. Baseball was featured in 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo for the first time since 2008.
whoa.
So the
Oh,
reason it was there is because of Tokyo
yeah.
Olympics.
Tokyo was like, listen, you can't even have them here unless you're doing baseball. Like, we got to get people to care.
They also, I mean, one thing that I love the Summer Olympics, but I love that they had this. They had surfing, they had
That was really cool.
skateboarding, yeah, they had bouldering. I think that's what you officially call it. Like the climbing, the rock climbing.
Oh, is
Yes,
it really
that's bouldering.
officially called bouldering?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
feel like they got to workshop that name. So Caroline goes on to say, oh, if you want to make a living, you have to be good enough to play in the Japan League. The Americans that go over there to play can make up to 6 figures, like Monica Abbott and Natasha Watley. These teams are fielded by the big time companies over there, like Toyota, and is why they have more money to spend on the best players.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Softball is currently not permanently in the Olympics, Cat, but each cycle the committee votes, and if it's a country that has a large interest in softball and has facilities already, like Japan 2021, they can be included in the games. Unfortunately, softball will not be in the 2024 games.
No powers.
Boo.
Oh, boo.
But we now know so much about it.
I know. I feel like an expert. Caroline says, I know that's a lot of information to use, as much or
No.
as little as you like. I'm a huge Legends fan and still sad it's gone, but glad you gals are still putting out podcasts. Caroline,
Yay.
that was epic. I feel like I learned so much
I did.
about softball.
And if
now
we
have
don't
a
do a
softball
Summer
expert.
Olympics, if we don't do a Summer Olympics podcast, I don't know what we're doing.
Brilliant idea.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's going to be
I
our
do it.
2024, right? Is the Summer Olympics?
But
I'm
it's
re-
like
I'm
from the
ready.
perspective that knows nothing about sports.
Like, as we watched cycling last night, a bicyclist drove past another bicyclist.
We're going to be like, I love the part where he was pedaling.
Yeah,
Very
the
inspirational.
uphill,
Uphill,
really
oh,
impressive. The
how did he do
downhill,
that?
the zoomy, really just top level zoom.
We're gonna ESPN's gonna call us up after listening to those podcasts, and they're gonna be like, we want you to have no knowledge and just keep commentating.
Look, all the sports I know
Cat's
right
ready.
now. Softball, watch the Lisa game. I'm watching women's sports, women's
Diving.
soccer, at least 5 minutes. Bouldering, watch 2 minutes of that.
I'm ready
become
for anything.
a high diving expert because I follow a girl on Instagram.
There you go.
From Canada. Her name is Molly Carson, and she's actually spectacular. But she like takes her cameras up to the top and like shows you the 20-meter platform and like shows you
Whoa.
her dive. It's so cool though. She's fantastic. She's
That's
really
scary.
I do love the gymnastics. So I mean that's a Summer Olympic
cool.
sport.
I forgot. I was
And
like,
Gabby Douglas is returning, I believe.
I know that's
yeah.
really exciting.
See, I know some stuff.
I feel like gymnastics is the ice skating of the Summer Olympics, and so I'm interested in it. Speaking of softball, though, we have another Ted Lasso feedback email. This one, I feel like in every episode we should just get something slightly wrong about sports, so we get a lot of feedback. This one is from Mark, who says, "Hi, ladies. I just finished listening to your Ted Lasso episode, or at least listened to the last half hour in case I had an email in there, because I really have no interest in Ted Lasso. I heard your discussion that is hilarious about softball, particularly the part about whether it had ever been in the Olympics. Personally, I've never really played softball unless there was beer involved, but I do know a little bit of the Olympic stuff I can share with you.
Well, we're
So,
gonna have a whole podcast about it, so
uh,
get ready.
listen, Mark, get ready. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna do no research, and we'll just have everybody write into us with some cool facts. So, speaking of cool facts, Mark says softball was an official Olympic sport from 1996 to 2008. As part of preparing for the 2012 London Games, the International Olympic Committee got huffy and made two decisions: that baseball would be kicked out of the Olympics because Major League Baseball refuses to take 2 weeks off in the middle of the season to let their players play, which, for
Hilarious.
those of us old enough to remember the amateur era when the IOC would take away medals if they found out you had been paid to sign autographs at a card show, is shocking enough.
I
And
will say that makes sense though, because like when you look at basketball, and again, you could quote me, don't quote me, but I could be wrong. But basketball seems to be in the Olympics every single time, and it's probably because it's off
off
season.
season.
They're able to
That
do
makes
it.
sense.
And also basketball is very international. Like
Yeah, that's very true.
that's interesting.
Um, yeah, so I did remember that rule that like you couldn't play professionally and like be in the Olympics, and it was like a big thing if like Christy Yamaguchi was in like Ice Capades or something. So it is kind of funny that they would just like allow like professional Major League Baseball players in there now.
But they
And
allowed for basketball.
yeah, yeah.
Michael Jordan was in the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. They had like a weird the Olympics were kind of weird about some of their sponsorship stuff as well. Mark says, and also that softball would be kicked out because, in the IOC's considered opinion, it was just baseball for girls. Aw. Apparently, they've relented. Softball and baseball were allowed back in for the 2020/2021 games in Tokyo. Will not be played in the Paris Games next year. Instead, they're having the first Olympic breakdancing competition. But they
I
will
heard
be
about
back.
that.
That is hilarious. I did not know about that. But they will be back in for 2028 in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Oh, LA, man, that's
L-
interesting.
that's going to be fun. Oh, and we have a question corner, which from Mark, who says, "Would you have been more likely to watch Gotham Knights if you knew up front that the answer to why does this show exist was so they could make Stephanie Brown gay?"
I would only watch
Mark,
her clips, which I did. I watched the gay clips of her, and that's
nice.
it. And I got
uh,
canceled, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, that poor Gotham Knights. Mark did say, since I kind of dropped a bomb at the end of my email, I based that assertion about Stephanie on this tweet by Natalie Abrams, where she said it was like very important for her to like she kind of used Stephanie to tell her story of self discovery. But yeah, I had no idea because I watched the pilot and was like, maybe one day I'll check it out, and then just didn't have time and never did.
Yeah.
But that sounds cool. Maybe I will also look up the Stephanie Brown clips and just sort of live vicariously through that storyline.
As I usually
Uh,
do.
and we have a email from all the way back to our flash finale feedback from Daryl, who says, just a few short thoughts. There are several things that reminded me of the Supergirl series finale. A team of heroes and villains go against each other. The main villain summons the others through magic or other means. The main villain absorbs the power of the others. First on Supergirl, we see Rain do one and Lex do the other. And in this episode, we see the Blue Cobalt do it. Eric Wallace must be Supergirl's biggest fan. Uh, did the show really need the two characters of Keone? And I think Jenna West, it says. And Daryl says, I'm glad Nora has been born, but sad to see she's going to be without Bart, unless, of course, Barry and Iris have another kid. he also says, the lampshading comment stood out to me because Supergirl does its fair share of lampshading over the course of the show. Lena and James being written into a relationship despite being boss employee at Catco is the example that immediately comes to mind. Also, parts of the Flash final season being rushed reminds me of Kara's decision to come out as Supergirl being pushed to the last half of the last episode of the last season. Eric Wallace has said he was working with the shortened season, but there are several Legends fans upset with him for not bringing them back. I don't understand why they're so upset. He's not the one who ended the show on a cliffhanger. Also, having a graphic novel to conclude the Legends plot is literally the least they could do. We deserve at least that much in terms of closures, since the showrunners haven't come right out and told us what they had planned. So I think we're all on the same page that we would love a Legends uh, graphic novel of some kind to kind of like wrap up that storyline. And our last piece of feedback, this was when we talked about into across the Spider-Verse,
Cross
into this
Spider Verse.
across the Spider-Verse. I'm so confused with all the Spider-Verse topics. So Joe, I think left this on our YouTube page, which by the way, you can, if you want to watch us in action, you can follow our YouTube channel. We're the Legendary Ladies over there. So Joe said, controversial opinion. A cliffhanger doesn't belong in a movie. A movie has 3 acts, beginning, middle, end. You have 3 finite sections to tell your story. Sequels have changed movies into doing beginning, middle, beginning. There are no endings anymore. What should have been the payoff into the first act setup becomes the setup for the next movie. I like a lot of Marvel movies, but they've obliterated the happy ending aspect because none of the character stories can ever really end unless they die. And I don't disagree with that actually. It was one of the things I liked about the Barbie movie was that like it had an ending and it felt like an ending, and maybe we'd get another movie, but if we didn't, that was an ending. It ended. So that was all of our feedback from you guys. Thanks so much for sending that in. And if you want to send us feedback, you can email us at thelegendaryladies@gmail.com. You can tweet us at legends_podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Legendary Ladies. And you can find us, as we mentioned, on YouTube at the Legendary Ladies. I think that kind of like wraps us up. So I'm gonna throw it over to you, Kat. What do you have going on? Another Kickstarter,
I
perhaps?
do have another Kickstarter. It launches on Monday, and our follow count is so good for this one. It's at 600 followers already, which is kind of crazy. That's like triple the amount of followers we usually get. And it's for Beast and Snow. It's a not safe for work queer vampire werewolf story where you get to see Snow White as a vampire, and there's some werewolf elements in the Beauty and the
I'm
Beast side of
so
stories.
excited. I'm
Thank you,
so
thank you.
excited.
Yeah,
Spicy.
I'm so excited for this comic to come out, and we're gonna do it 2 weeks from now, and we got so excited that we decided to push it a week up. So, and also the follow count was just doing so well. We're like, we actually have all the elements to launch this campaign earlier, so we're launching that on Monday. You can still follow the page Beast and Snow issue 1 on Kickstarter, or go on my Twitter at Comic Uno. It's the pinned tweet.
And Amy, what about you? What do you have going on?
You all can find me on Instagram, Amy_hip, HYP. I also have a local project that I cannot announce yet that I am very excited about. So stay tuned, especially if you're in San Diego. If you had been at Comic-Con, I told everybody. Oops.
Ooh, aw.
The secret was out.
I didn't get to go to Comic-Con, so obviously this is still a mystery to me as well. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where we have been covering the my adventures with Superman animated show. So we're going to be doing episode 3 this week, so you should come and join us and say hello. And I think that's going to do it for our discussion on Barbie. Again, if you have thoughts about Barbie that you want to send them our way. But until next time, stay legendary.